My name is Ryan, and I work at Domino's. Last night, after completing all my pizza deliveries around 11:30 p.m., I received an unexpected call. The customer had ordered 5 large cheese pizzas, and surprisingly, the delivery address was conveniently on my way. Although the destination was in a hilly area, I didn't mind making the extra effort to ensure a prompt delivery. Despite the challenging terrain, I received the order details and wrote them down accurately. It was just another instance where dedication to customer service and a willingness to go the extra mile made the job at Domino's both challenging and rewarding. As I reached the delivery destination, I found myself in a dimly lit alley. The houses, 4 or 5 in total, all looked identical. My GPS guided me to the last house in the row, which stood ominously dark. Undeterred, I approached and knocked on the door, hoping to complete the pizza delivery. To my surprise, there was no response after 2 attempts. As I retreated back to my car, a sudden, heavy voice startled me from behind the glass door. The unseen figure demanded to know who I was and what I wanted. Keeping my composure, I politely explained that I was there for a pizza delivery. However, he adamantly denied having placed any order. The figure, a looming presence behind the glass, continued to assert that no pizza had been ordered. Despite the eerie encounter, I sensed the need to clarify. As we approached what seemed to be the dining room, a force pushed us into a dusty, neglected room adjacent to it. The dim light revealed a grim scene, a room filled with rotting pizzas and a swarm of insects buzzing incessantly. The putrid smell was overwhelming, and the dim light exposed the unsettling presence of lizards crawling across the decaying food. In the dimly lit, decaying room filled with the putrid stench of rotting pizzas, terror gripped us as we came to a chilling realization about Mr. Harriet's supposed appreciation. What we initially thought was a tip turned out to be a nightmarish trap, and the spectral encounter from the previous night paled in comparison to the sinister reality unfolding before us. As we stood amidst the grotesque scene, the disembodied voice persisted, continuing its eerie direction. It seemed to take pleasure in fueling discord between Eric and me. Whispers insinuated in my ear, suggesting that Eric had intentionally lured me into this macabre room. Soon, the room echoed with the sound of our voices raised in a heated argument. The malicious whispers fueled our paranoia, and accusations flew between us. Eric blamed me for leading him into this trap, while I retorted that he deliberately brought me here, succumbing to the voices' insidious manipulation. Suddenly, I opened my eyes early in the morning, beads of sweat clung to my forehead, and my body felt tense. Relief washed over me as I realized it was just a dream, a terrifying nightmare that had momentarily disrupted my peace. I got up, took a few deep breaths, and tried to shake off the lingering unease. The day unfolded like any other, and with each passing hour, I immersed myself in the routine of my job, interacting with customers and preparing pizzas. The memory of the unsettling dream faded into the background as the demands of the day took over. However, as the night descended, a peculiar fear gripped me. I found myself hoping against hope that the ominous call would not come again. Despite my efforts to push aside the lingering unease, the fear persisted, casting a shadow over my evening. To my dismay, as the night progressed, the inevitable happened. The phone rang, and the call was eerily familiar. The voice on the other end placed an order for 5 pizzas. It was a Friday night, and the rain was pouring relentlessly outside. I was alone at home, craving a slice of comfort in the form of a hot, cheesy pizza. I decided to order from a local pizzeria that I had heard good things about. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary Friday night would turn into a chilling experience that would haunt me for weeks to come. I placed my order online and eagerly awaited the arrival of the pizza. The estimated delivery time came and went, but I dismissed it as the usual delay during a rainy evening. About 30 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. Excitedly, I rushed to open it, expecting to see the familiar uniform of a pizza delivery boy. To my surprise, the man standing at my doorstep wasn't dressed in a delivery uniform. Instead, he wore a disheveled jacket, his face questioning the safety of my own home, turning what was supposed to be a simple pizza delivery into a haunting experience that lingered in the shadows of my mind. It was a cold, foggy night in Chicago, and I was working my usual shift as a pizza delivery driver. The city's bustling streets were eerily quiet as I navigated my way through the labyrinthine neighborhoods, my breath visible in the frigid air. My next delivery took me to an address on the outskirts of the city, an area that I wasn't particularly familiar with. The GPS led me to a dimly lit street lined with old, decrepit houses that seemed to loom over the sidewalk like silent sentinels. The air was heavy with an unspoken tension, making me uneasy as I approached the designated address. The house itself looked like it had weathered decades of neglect, its paint peeling and windows boarded up. I hesitated for a moment, questioning the accuracy of the GPS, but the number on the mailbox matched the one on the order. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the pizza bag and approached the front door. The porch light flickered ominously as I knocked, the sound echoing through the silence. Seconds stretched into minutes before I heard the creaking of floorboards from within, and the door slowly swung open. A tall figure stood before me, their face obscured by the shadows. The only discernible feature was a pair of piercing eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. The person reached out, taking the pizza box without uttering a single word. I never discovered the truth behind that blood-stained delivery, but the experience left me with a lingering paranoia every time I hit the road for a late-night pizza drop-off in the shadowy corners of Chicago. I'd been having a really busy night, non-stop back and forth, without any time to even pause and take a leak. I'd been so busy that I wasn't really thinking about bathroom breaks. But we're also going through a bit of a heat wave in our area, so I've been drinking copious amounts of water. All of a sudden, as I was driving to this particular delivery, the urge to go hit me. Like, things went from 0 to 60 in an instant. Thankfully, I was close to the customer so could get this one over with quickly. Or so I thought. I pulled up to the house, and it was an area I'd delivered in before, so I could immediately see that something wasn't right. All the lights were off in the house, not even the glow of a television or anything. It was extra apparent because the streetlight closest to the door happened to be out of order. And on top of it all, the block was dead quiet. This is a big university area, and obviously there aren't many student renters in July, but there had to be at least one person, because someone ordered this pizza. Maybe they just like sitting in the dark, or they were out back in the yard, whatever. I just didn't want to get out of my car and knock on a quiet house in the middle of the night, around 9:30 p.m., without first checking that I had the correct address and the customer was inside. It was scorching that night, even after sundown. My car's AC is a joke, and the piping hot pizzas don't help things much, so I have to try and open the car door as infrequently as possible to keep any cool air in. I called the number the customer provided and the voice on the other end said, kind of brusquely and out of breath, "Yeah?" I just tried to keep it clear and concise. "Hey, it's your pizza out front, but there doesn't appear to be anybody home?" And the customer replied, still gasping for air, "Yeah, I'm not home." I had to pee so badly by that point that I was much less patient than I'd otherwise be with a customer right out of the gate. "Well, then we're going to have to terminate the order, because I've arrived in the stated delivery window and you were supposed to pay in cash, so I don't know what to tell you. Plan ahead next time." I instantly regretted letting my bladder do the talking for me as the voice on the other end came through more clearly as a young, bubbly, and very distraught girl who couldn't have been older than 20 or 25. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I was running down the street so I could barely hear you," she cried. "I just switched you out of my AirPods. Is that better? Sorry, I completely lost track of time at work, but I knew you were coming. That's why I'm literally running home right now. Please don't leave, I'm starving and I don't have a car. Seriously, please don't leave. 5 minutes tops, okay? I know what it's like to be hungry, and running late, and have no car but not live near any restaurants." Plus, when I heard her voice, I began to remember more specifically having delivered to this place a couple times before, and she'd always been perfectly nice. Now I felt bad for snapping at her. I tried to walk it back, while simultaneously looking out my window for potential spots to pee. "No, my bad, I'm letting the heat get to me and it's not your fault. No need to rush. See you when you get here." I hung up and, while surveilling the street, was starting to think I was really out of luck. All the other houses had people in them, and were close together, so there were no clumps of trees or out-of-the-way patches of land or anything. Of course, I had just tossed my empty water bottle at the last delivery, because I'm an idiot. Finally, I decided it was escalating to the point of an emergency, and the safest bet was to use a bush in front of the woman's house. She wasn't home. The street light was out so no one would see me. The people who were home were inside. My car was parked across the street, and we're a small shop who don't wear uniforms, so if someone did spot me, they'd have no way to connect me to my employer. Animals pee outside all the time, humans are animals, this is fine. I scurried over to the tallest bush in her front yard. She didn't really have much of a yard, more just a walkway lined with bushes and flowers that ran adjacent to her front door. The biggest cluster of bushes, the only one where I could be sure there would be no visible splatter on the side of the house, was about 4 feet from her door. I looked both ways, unzipped, and let fly. After the initial millisecond of relief, I noticed the sound was way off, more like pissing on something solid than something leafy. I started panicking, thinking I'd aimed wrong. But once I start, I can't stop midstream, so I kept squinting into the darkness to see if maybe I was hitting a key rock or something and could just move a few inches over. Instead, all of a sudden, I heard a way more concerning noise. A deep voice exclaiming, "What the F***CK?" And before I could turn around, assuming I'd been caught by a neighbor, a man came leaping out of the bushes. He blew by me, brushing my golden shower off him as did. He spit pretty emphatically on the ground, so I think I might have beamed him right in the face. I didn't see where he went after a few paces, but though this next part is kind of a blur, I do think I remember hearing a car screech out from a bit further away after a minute. I'd gotten some night vision by that point, so I was able to make out his height, build, and outfit, but only the most general details of each. I was in such shock that I didn't even put my dick away. I just stood there trying to figure out what had happened. The reality was so terrifying that my mind refused to accept it, and impulsively searched for a reasonable explanation that could make everything okay. I thought, could these bushes lead to some backyard area and just look like they were against the house? Could they have been obscuring an open window? My inner voice was desperately screaming, "Bruh, that man was wearing a hoodie in 90-degree weather. That was a bad man. You're in a bad situation." But the very idea that I was within inches of a guy who would be hiding in bushes at all, let alone in front of a young woman's house at night, just wasn't something I was ready to grapple with yet. I was coping by not coping. My fight or flight response totally failed me at that point, because my dumb *SS did the absolute last thing I should have done, and approached the bushes to try and validate this. There must have been a good reason for a man in a hoodie to be behind these bushes in the middle of the night. Theory. So I walked over to the side, turned on my phone flashlight, and tried to peer around the line of shrubbery. Pro tip: as scary as things may look in the dark, seeing them with a single beam of your flashlight can sometimes make it even worse. That's when I saw the bag. There was a tattered drawstring bag sitting behind the bushes, slightly splashed with pee. But I was in such a moronic daze from shock that I groped around for it, thinking, "See? This is it, this will explain why he was back here." It explained it. Once I maneuvered it over and pulled it open, I saw a sharp knife, a roll of duct tape, and a bottle of pills. The delusions officially broke at that point, and all the adrenaline, endorphins, and self-preservation instincts that had been suppressed kicked in 10 times over. I became whatever the opposite of dazed is. More laser-focused than I have ever been in my life, with one singular goal. Get back to my car! I dropped the bag, booked it across the street, got in my car, and slammed the pedal to the floor before the door was even all the way closed. I went as far as I could as fast as I could until I hit a red signal, then I pulled off to the side and realized I shouldn't be driving any more than necessary in the condition I was in. I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour drugstore and took a breath. I was finally calm and coherent enough to zip up and formulate a plan of action. My first lucid thought was, who do I call first, the police or the girl whose house that was? I thought about it for what couldn't have really been more than 10 seconds, but felt like an hour, and decided. Okay. I am in my locked car with the engine running. If trouble starts, I can drive away. I know something's up, she might not, she needs to know not to keep walking in that direction. But as I was dialing her number, it occurred to me. What if there was no girl? I thought I remembered delivering to that house before, but what if I was wrong? What if the girl on the phone was just a decoy to get me there to rob me, or worse? Every pizza guy on the planet has seen the Evil Genius documentary by now, so I thought. She called me all out of breath. She wasn't home. The whole thing was off, can't risk it, I'll start with the cops. I called 911, the operator was very helpful in keeping me calm, because I was a complete wreck by this point. He kept assuring me that someone would be there soon. I kept telling them they had to get there before the girl did, but I was trying to express 3 thoughts at once, and really damaging my own credibility. It came out more as, you've got to save this girl because he wasn't after me, I was just delivering a pizza. Unless they were after me, in which case there might not be a girl, but I talked to one on the phone, so then you should find that girl because they used her to lure me there. But if she's real, she doesn't know about the guy, who was also real. And there could be more guys if there's actually a girl, and you know what? Even if there isn't a girl, there might actually be more guys. I only checked one part of the bushes, so I don't actually know. But we'll know which guy is the one I saw because I pissed all over him, you know. I didn't mean to, this was back when I thought the girl was real but not home, but she might be real, so you really need to find her if she is because the guy was real. Finally, they basically just asked me to stop talking and stay on the line. But that was when I saw an incoming call from the customer. I couldn't answer it without disrupting my 911 call, so I just ignored it. But then she sent me this text like, "Hey, I'm here, don't see you." I told 911 she was there, and they said officers were only minutes away. But who knows how long that meant? Especially after I'd given such a scattered account of the events in my panic. I just felt overwhelmed with guilt. Because my rational mind said the odds of her being a decoy girl for some large scam targeting pizza guys were low, and the odds of her being the intended victim of a predator were high. So I put my 911 call on mute, where I can hear them but they can't hear me, and turned back, heart absolutely pounding out of my chest, compulsively muttering, F***CK, 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 the entire way. Then I took 911 off mute and told them I had returned to look for the girl. They weren't happy about that, but I saw her meandering past the parked cars in the street looking to see if one was mine, and I waved her down, flashing my brights. She bounced on over to the window of my car, happy-go-lucky. I figured that was a good sign that she wasn't in on whatever this was. But I was just so scared to be back in the general area and to not know what had just happened or what was going to happen. I kept whispering, "Get in! Get in!" And she was like, "Get it? Huh? Oh. You want me to get the pizza from the back?" I didn't want to make the same mistake with her that I had made with 911, so instead of trying to tell the whole story, I stuck to the bare basic facts. There was a man in your bushes. I'm on the phone with the police. I don't know where he is right now. Please get in the car so we can lock the doors. I was barely able to get even those sentences out, and I was shaking like I'd had 10 cups of black coffee. I held up my phone with 911 on the call screen to verify it for her. I thought that was why she got in the car with no further explanation, but it turns out that wasn't entirely it. You still there? Is she with you? Are you safe? Is anyone else there? 911 kept checking in, not knowing who the third party I was talking to was. I reassured them, and we drove, more cautiously this time, to a location 911 instructed us to wait at to speak with police after they cleared the area. I didn't actually have to do much after that. The police came pretty soon after. A police car met us. I gave a statement telling them everything I observed, and she went to go speak to more officers in more detail than they needed me for. It turns out the reason she got right into a strange pizza guy's car without probing any deeper into my story is because she knew who the man was right away from my description. She had an abusive ex-boyfriend who was apparently psychotic enough that he immediately came to mind from hearing, "There's a guy in your bushes." She later called us to thank me and insist on leaving a huge tip. I wasn't there when the call came in, so the kid who answered didn't know to refuse to accept the money. But the manager already promised the next time we see her we can load her up with enough one free pie cards to last a lifetime. Easily the scariest thing that has ever happened to me, on the job or off. I don't get the chance to tell the story much, because I try to avoid sharing it with anyone who could possibly know the girl or know of the event. But I'm still not the same since. Even though I know he didn't even have anything to do with me directly, this truly shook me to my core. Be safe out there, guys. Anything can happen. Hey there! I'm new but putting my all into sharing real horror stories. Your support is my motivation. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your comments mean the world to me. It happened a few years ago when I was injured in a car accident, forcing me to stay at home for several weeks until I recovered. My wife, occupied with work, couldn't be there to take care of me. The pain was too much for me to venture outside, so I spent most of my time in the apartment. The initial days were bearable as I had various activities to keep me occupied, but as time passed, boredom set in. One day, while watching TV, I heard footsteps and children's voices from the apartment above. I wondered why the children were at home when schools were not on break. The next day, the same sounds of footsteps and children playing reached my ears. It seemed like there were two children having a good time. As my boredom grew, I decided to order pizza delivery instead of cooking lunch. I ended up ordering too much, and after finishing my meal, a whole pizza remained untouched on the kitchen table. Recalling the children living The police found the woman's husband hiding in a wardrobe, his hands covered in blood, insisting that his wife and kids were still alive. On the kitchen table, they discovered an uneaten pizza.